Hello, everyone. We have a very special guest today, Chris Dreyer, CEO and founder of Rankings.io. And man, does he have a story going from getting a history degree to becoming a detention room supervisor and eventually going online when he got bored and typing in how to make money online, the infamous internet search, and eventually went down an education path to learn digital marketing, got into affiliate marketing, started working for an agency, left that agency 2 years later, and now owns one of the highest end personal injury lawyer specific SEO companies in the United States. I'd say probably one of the top brands for specifically personal injury lawyer SEO. So we're going to be trying to debunk some of the myths around personal injury lawyer SEO. And I always say, if you can do it in personal injury, a lot of the principles that Chris is going to be talking about can be applied to multiple other practice areas for lawyers and really any business, because PI is the most competitive of all niches. So let's start with a very zoomed out question. Chris, what is SEO?
SEO stands for search engine optimization, and it's essentially getting your keywords or your website on the first page of Google. So when someone types in a query into the Google search results, your listing, your website appears. There are, multiple types of placement, whether it's paid, local maps, the rich snippets, organic, but essentially that's the goal, is to show up in Google after a query's been made or typed in.
Got it. And I know that you warned me that you can be very opinionated, so I'm excited to hear the opinions roll in. But I must say, the results don't lie. So, the opinions must be working.
Thanks, Bill.
Definitely. So let's just kind of break this down. I want to kind of segment it by, on-page SEO, content, and then backlinks as a term. Everyone says, in order to have your SEO set up properly, you need to have these three things set up right. So let's start with on-page SEO. If you were to be handed a personal injury firm that really wants to grow their internet presence, what are the things that you would do and immediately look at with on-page?
So with on-page, looking at the Pareto principle, the 80-20, top down, the things I would look at are first, the content on the website. Is it targeting keywords properly? Is the content high quality, right? It's not all about length. It takes 2,000 words to rank an article, but really taking a look at, the structure, accessibility of that site. So, when a consumer types in a bottom of the funnel keyword like car accident lawyer or bankruptcy lawyer, they land on a page that answers their intent. It's all about intent. So a lot of times you go down these rabbit holes, right? Where everyone thinks that content has to be long, but really it just has to answer consumer intent, whether that's 500 words or 10,000 words. But so the quality of the content, if they're targeting keywords, title tags are very important. It's one of the main metrics that Google looks at to determine the relevancy of a page. But really just, does it allow the user to navigate through the site to find their answer that they're looking for? If it's hard to navigate, if the content's hard to access, then it's going to be very difficult for that site to perform.
So, and I just want to zoom out real quick for any people listening who don't know what on-page is. On-page is the portion of SEO where you make sure that the website itself is set up for success. And then beyond that, there's monthly activities that, you're going to be always doing some on-page work on a website, right? But then there's kind of, the industry likes to segment on-page as work that's done to set up a website for SEO success versus content creation, which requires copywriting. And I know your opinion is probably that it all blends together and it's not really segmented. Regarding on-page, what are some of the biggest myths or things that people maybe focus too much on that don't matter when it pertains to their actual website setup for success in SEO?
So I wouldn't, in terms of on-page myths, I would say one of them, and it's been going on the internet a lot frequently or recently, and Danny Sullivan came out with an article that said that schema does not affect rankings. Well, that's just not true, because click-through rate absolutely affects rankings. So if you have a good meta description that draws in the click after a query, then that can affect your rankings, because Google will think that that query is serving the consumer. So if you have FAQ schema and you occupy more real estate, you can capture more clicks. The same holds true to things like review schema, those other types of markups that can provide social proof or a little bit more information to help you capture the query. Those can absolutely affect the rankings of the site. So that's definitely a myth that schema doesn't affect rankings. It absolutely does.
So for someone who doesn't understand what schema is, how would you describe that to a layperson?
So schema, so the easiest thing that I would tell you is to Google schema markups, and there's tons of code generators that can just make this very easy for you. But it's essentially adding lines of code to give you additional markups, additional visibility, to show information in the search results a little bit differently. So they have, review schema where it'll show up the review below your listing. There's FAQ schema where it will display common questions under the listing. There's also, person schema to identify the author. There's video schema to help recognize video. There's event schema, so your event will show up in the Google search results before a click through. This is just, it helps Google understand what the page is about. And I think ultimately that, Google's trying to categorize the search results. So schema is helping with that. So ultimately it's going to impact the SEO, your rankability of the site.
Good point. So we have schema being basically how Google interprets your website. And I always say regarding SEO, you could have the best site in the world design-wise. Oh my God, it looks so amazing. And you can have the interpretation of that website all wacky and messed up. So schema, for people who aren't at that advanced, is basically interpreting data on the back end so that Google's bots can read it. Would that be safe to say?
Yeah, definitely.
So on page, how important is load speed?
It's very important. I think sometimes it's overemphasized because, in the personal injury space, like you mentioned, highly competitive. I've seen sites that, have a page speed insight score of a 20 out of 100, and they're still dominating the search results. What I can tell you is, again, it may affect some of the metrics that Google looks at to determine if your site should rank. So one of the metrics that it will look at is time on site or your bounce rate. Now, things like bounce rate, without going down a rabbit hole, that's not a great metric on its own. It has to be used with other metrics. And we can go down that rabbit hole if you want. But basically, if a consumer comes to your site and it won't load and they leave, that will affect your bounce rate. Your bounce rate will increase. Your time on page will be low. So when Google evaluates those metrics, it will say, this did not answer the consumer's intent. We're not going to serve this anymore. So that's some of the reasons on SEO wise, not to mention just your ability to convert the consumer is lost if the site won't load.
So I have a funny question. I just heard from someone a couple of days ago regarding YouTube. Since we did a huge YouTube push, I get reached out to by people now who see all the videos and they're like, give me all these tips and wanting my business to sign them up for YouTube optimization. And I had this one person tell me they can hire people overseas to actually, on a real life, signed into a Google account, watch my YouTube videos and watch them from start to finish to almost create a long watch time, which in your world, in the SEO world, is long time on site. So what's your thoughts on a strategy like that?
So it absolutely works. If the site or the video performs, okay? If the video doesn't perform and they immediately leave, but that's why people say there's such a debate here. Does Google Ads affect SEO? Yes, it does, because you get those pages you get the consumer to stay on your site, and you get those metrics, the page on site numbers, you're navigating to the number of pages throughout the website, average pages visited. All those can affect your SEO. So, and I know YouTube's algorithm is definitely different than Google's, but and YouTube highly emphasizes the length of the video watch. So for YouTube, it's even more of a factor. But that's also why when it comes down to video, doing a video embed on your site, and that's a strong reason, is because it can keep people on the site longer. So if Google looks at two pieces of content, let's say you have a truck accident lawyer page that's 2,000 words, and you have another truck accident page that's 2,000 words. Both of them are very high quality, right? They both answer consumer intent, and they're high quality. Without looking at backlinks, okay? But if you just looked at the metrics on the page, if one had a video and a user stayed for 30 seconds longer, then Google's data may think that page is better, because keep in mind, Google can't measure the smile on a consumer's face. They don't know if a consumer's happy, right? Well, what they can measure is data. They can see that this consumer stayed on the page longer than the other consumer. Therefore, the one that stayed longer is probably happy.
Yeah. And what percent of content, especially in the news, goes viral that makes people smile? It's actually probably not even about people smiling. They just want attention, right? They want to capture people's attention. That's what all of these websites, Google, Facebook, LinkedIn, are all trying to do. Let's transition quickly. Now I'm getting tons of questions just talking to you right now, but I want to just get through content and backlinks. I want to hear your beliefs and then some myths around content creation and backlinks, and then we can move on to the more challenging questions that I have.
So I think the biggest one we hit was, the word length, right, is a myth. Okay, so to some degree, longer content.
That's a big statement.
It is. Okay, so if you have an FAQ, it's a very direct answer. There's not something that needs to be expounded on. It has the opportunity to rank because it answers that intent. Now, your practice area pages, your sales pages that really need those signals, those bottom of the funnel pages that are being compared against everything. Longer content does take a longer amount of time to read. But if it's filled with fluff words, then the quality of that may be diluted and the consumer may not be getting value. So, ultimately, length is not what matters. It's answering consumer intent to the best of your ability. That's what matters.
Huge insight shift. Even for me, we have a power page, as we call it at our company, a lengthy everything you need to know type, I guess you'd call it an article blog, that ranks, maybe fourth for law firm PPC, lawyer PPC keywords. And we just kept adding to it, thinking that would be something that would help. But this is an insight for me, because I guess it wouldn't necessarily, it could help if user intent was, hey, we need more information at the bottom of this. But I'm thinking the chances are they probably don't, because who even reads now? I mean,
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, Bill, on that point, so think of it like this. If your query is long, so I hate using the long tail keyword phrase, but that's what everyone knows, right? If it's lengthy, it's 4+ words, then that's a very direct question. It's very direct. So there's probably the intent is really defined in that query string. So it can be shorter. But if it's short, car accident lawyer, it's a short query that could have numerous types of intent applied to it. What to do after a car accident? Should I hire a car accident lawyer? Car accident statistics, all of these things. So even myself and you develop these great power pages. The reason they work so well is because a lot of times they can answer multiple types of intent. So you're kind of, hitting all those types of queries that the individual could be looking for.
Okay. And then the infamous backlink question. So what is your take on backlinks?
Google was founded, this search engine was founded using backlinks as its metric of categorization. In the past, it didn't have as many algorithmic filters for quality, right? So you could just bombard a site with backlinks, and that was the votes. You know, if you're trying to win an election, you want to get as many votes as possible. If you're trying to rank on the first page of Google, you want to get as many high quality links as possible. So it still absolutely is a major factor. I think people overemphasize toxic links. I think that's a myth. I think Google's algorithm, now that the Penguin algorithm is live, now devalues toxic links on its own, so you don't necessarily have to disavow every single toxic link that you receive. I also think there's myths surrounding particular tactics such as the scholarship campaigns, right? John Mueller came out and said that scholarship EDU links were being spammed, and he was devaluing those. So automatically everyone's like, oh, we're not going to do scholarship campaigns. When in reality, how often have you played a video game like Halo or some video game and a laser gun is too strong? So what do? They nerf it. They reduce its power. That's what's happening with EDU links. It's not that they don't have any power. They've just been reduced, or maybe there's just so many links on a page that the equity's been diluted. That tactic still works. I know that was a mouthful.
No, definitely. So I'm going to zoom out again and kind of talk through some of the concepts here. So we talked about on-page SEO, which is getting your website set up for success in SEO, which requires making Google able to read the content on your website and interpret your website. It also includes creating a good user experience with the navigability. You use two words, structure and accessibility, I believe. Were those the two words?
Yep.
That is your on-page SEO. So your website has to be set up for success. Then there's a content creation plan that takes place. And Chris's biggest point is that the content has to match user intent versus just reaching a certain, word length. I know some people who just take the top 3 things ranking for a keyword, look at the word length of the top 3, and then say, oh, if we create something that's another 1,000 words longer, we're going to outrank those top 3. But Chris is saying that's not the case. People may not want longer. And then also within your content, by embedding videos, you can increase the time on your website, which tells Google that people are having a good time on your website. And then lastly, we talked about backlinks. And the big takeaway there is they are vitally important. And while some things may, be popular during certain, points in time, like scholarship links, it's never smart to abandon, anything just because of some rah-rah happening in the background. You have to stay consistent with .edus, and I'm assuming, high domain authority, news-based authoritative websites. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, whether you're looking at, Moz's DA or Ahrefs's DR domain rating or whatever you're looking at, a lot of those are created looking at the total inbound links. There's other factors, but that's how a lot of those are created. So, if a site has a lot of inbound links, that has a ton of votes. So in Google's eyes, it may be more valuable. Also, I'm trying not to tie these in too much, but they all kind of do work together. So looking at the content strategy as it relates to link building. So a lot of times attorneys will only create content for the bottom of the funnel. They'll create practice area pages, their sales pages, car accident lawyer, truck accident lawyer, bankruptcy lawyer. You absolutely need those, right? They're vital because when they rank, they have intent to hire, right? They can generate an ROI. But it's also important to have content that covers the middle, answers those questions that they aren't ready, maybe they're not ready to hire yet. And then the one that's not talked about that I really want to cover is the top of the funnel. The top of the funnel content is awareness. It's very, very broad. It is new technology around safety. And when you're doing a link building campaign and you're trying to acquire backlinks, if you reach out to a webmaster and you're trying to link back to your practice area page, it's very difficult because it's a sales page. No matter how you try to position it, everyone sees through it. It's a sales page. But if you have a very broad topic that's informational based, you can get links to those much, much easier. So it's a critical component of your content strategy is you have to have top, middle, and bottom of the funnel content.
Wow. That was revolutionary right there. So in summary right there, we talked about awareness, the awareness segment, which is top of funnel. These are people who aren't ready to hire a lawyer, essentially. Then we have mid intent, and then we have the bottom of funnel demand, which is the practice area pages. So now let's dive into some of these more I guess unknowns that I've had for a really long time. And I just want to ask your opinion on it. So your opinion on the balance between having practice area pages for every little town in your area broken down, let's say there's, 15 smaller towns surrounding a major market that an attorney targets. Does it match user intent, and or does it help rankings if we go super granular and create a very specific town page on bicycle accidents? Or is there a different strategy with practice area pages you follow?
That's a great question. I'm glad you asked this. So it's not necessarily, I would say the biggest thing is it's a waste of time, right? So these smaller locations, these smaller cities have very low search volume. And here's the thing. If you don't have a headquarter brick and mortar office in that location, you're not going to have the ability to rank in the 3-pack, the map pack. So that's the best virtual real estate there is right below the paid ads. So it's often a waste of time. And here's the other thing that can happen. Think of, okay, so your inbound link backlinks, think of that. If you had to paint a picture visually of your authority, think of your authority in a pitcher of water. That's your authority, okay? If you poured and you made thousands of pages and you poured that water over your website, the water would be really short on each of these pages, right? Some pages would get a little bit more, but it would trickle over. It'd be very diluted, very thin. Google would have a hard time determining what's the most important pages on the site, as opposed to less pages, high quality, they're around your market, you have an office location there, and you pour that water again over those pages. Well, then the amount of equity that each page gets, now it'll differ because of where the inbound links come in, but it's going to get substantially more equity. Google's going to understand the topical relevancy of the site better, and just overall, it gives it a much better chance to rank. So I think oftentimes we want to go after like every little city, but it really depends on where you're at as a firm. If your firm has a tremendous link profile, you can move into other territory easier than if your inbound link profile is smaller because of that water dilution. And that's also why there's articles on Search Engine Land that talk about dead pages, non-performing pages. When you cull those and you see a ranking improvement, because you're now emphasizing the pages that matter, and that equity transfers to those more easily.
Great explanation right there. And I'm just gonna keep asking questions. So next one is, how does PI compare to other, not only niches of law, but other lead focused businesses, like, even plumbers, roofers? You can keep it lawyer specific, but what's like unique about PI to you, marketing?
Very large question. So let me first talk about one thing that's rarely talked about, okay? So for personal injury attorneys, most of the time there's this level of case that they'll take. Some firms will take every type of case. They'll take the very low injuries, the soft tissue, all the way to major injuries, right? Others, PI firms that move upstream, they only take the serious injuries, like the major accidents, and they refer out everything. The first challenge in PI is the ones that only take the serious injuries have less opportunity to close cases, which means less opportunity to obtain reviews. Reviews are a major factor for local SEO and prominence. So some of these firms that have this great reputation, they're like, oh, we should be outranking so-and-so. But when you're only taking brain injury cases and you're only closing 1 or 2 deals a month, that's why you're not ranking right there. So the firms that take the soft tissue and can handle those get substantially more reviews, so it's more prominence. As it relates to the other practice areas, personal injury, it's typically just more saturated. Saturation leads to stronger demands of production, and by production I mean content and backlinks, all those components that go into ranking, as opposed to something like trademark law or bankruptcy or even family law. They just have less competition. It's less saturated, so it requires less quality content, and also requires less links.
Great points. Yeah, like I always say, if you can do it in PI, you can do it anywhere. Next is Bert. So I made a video on Bert, and my assumption with Bert is it actually perfectly aligns with your belief system towards intent versus keyword stuffing. So Bert is an algorithm update that the best way I describe it is, if someone's typing in buy or sell my car, they don't want to see a search result that says sell my car. They want to see a search result that says we buy your car cash today, right? But the keywords don't match. And the bidirectional, however all the other words are within it, the BERT framework of reading and interpreting content and searching and matching intent with what's on a website, I believe aligns with your belief systems of matching intent versus worrying about, did I include the proper keyword on this page 4 times? Would you agree with that?
Oh yeah. So it's becoming a day and age where, back in the day, everyone started with keyword research. Identify keyword, see if it has search volume opportunity, then go and write around that keyword, try to incorporate that keyword. But now it is identify the keyword that has search volume, then consider the intent that's being typed in, and then answer for that intent. There's a lot of ways that you can do this. So you can do, you can type in the query, and you can look at the LSI phrases, the related queries, the questions that people are asking. You can also go to things like, sites like Avo and lawyers.com and go to their question and answer contributor section and see the types of queries that individuals are asking around that topic. You can go to YouTube. All of those are great sources, and 100% agree with you, Bill. It's no longer just identifying the keyword and using that keyword over and over again. You have to answer for intent, because if you don't, the other signals will be impacted. Consumer comes there, yeah, it's got the keyword, but it doesn't answer what I'm looking for. It doesn't provide me value, so I leave. So Google's looking at those signals much more now.
Yeah. So I'm assuming with your current systems and processes, you probably don't have to really change anything for Bert.
Yeah. So fortunately, since we specialize in personal injury, we call it internally a legal sushi. When you go to order sushi, you got your different types of sushi rolls, and then you put the check mark next to them, right? We've already identified all of the keywords at each level of the funnel. Not that we don't continually add to this list, but the core keywords we have defined. So, it's just incorporating those strategies all together. They all kind of work together. You want a middle of the funnel article to feed into a bottom of the funnel, to work people to a conversion point. And also, those can obtain backlinks easier than the bottom. Same for the top to the middle. Whether you call it siloing or pillar cluster or whatever you want to call it. I've even heard it referred to as, when you write a book, you got a book, which is your overview, and then you got your chapters. But all of that goes into it, and it's ultimately just answering intent.
That's awesome. So another question that you hinted at was, how long does SEO take? Can I just rank first in 3 months?
Yeah, it just drives me insane. Everyone says 6 months, 6 months, 6 months. And that is a lie. It's not a myth. It is a lie. So the amount of time, there are a couple factors that determine the amount of time. First, your current state, okay? If you've been doing TV and branding and media, and you've had an old site that has a lot of natural prominence, that site has an easier time, has more ability to rank than if you're a brand new attorney with a website with no prominence. Okay, so that can impact your time. Also, your competition. Okay, someone already occupies market share for the keywords that you want to rank for. So your ability to outrank them deals in part with your production, okay, and your quality. So 6 months is so arbitrary, it drives me insane. You know, it could be 1 month. Maybe your website was redesigned and they didn't do 301s properly and the architecture's messed up. You fix the architecture, do a search and replace, and it could be ranking in a month or two, okay? Or you're in a major market like Los Angeles, okay, highly competitive. If you don't set the proper production, okay, amount of content, amount of links, and amount of work going into establishing your brand and prominence, you're never going to rank. It's not going to be 6 months. It's not going to, oh, we're building up to something, because your competitors are also doing that. So you have to establish a level of production that can take market share from those in the top 3 results.
Great point. Another question is, where do leads come from? So, and I asked this from the context of primarily Google My Business and the organic search results. So based on your data, where do leads come from?
You know, Google My Business occupies the best virtual real estate above the fold, right below the paid ads. So that gets a very high impression share. You'll get, you know, your local searches with proximity will be coming from those. The organic search results, you know, those can drive, you know, middle of the funnel, you know, bottom of the funnel, whatever it is. But, you know, the times have changed, right? Back in the day when there was a sidebar of paid ads and 3 results at the top, you know, you were in the 6th position or the 7th position was the first organic. Well, now it is what, the 8th. Okay, there's 4 paid ads, 4 map pack, now the 9th position. So you want to occupy as high above the fold as possible. I'm a big proponent. I'm an SEO guy, but I'm a multi-channel type of person, because when you do a multi-channel type of marketing, whether it's traditional, whether it's social, whether it's YouTube, pay-per-click, it all impacts perception, prominence, in your brand. So they can, you know, if someone, they have to be reinforced with your brand before they make a hiring decision, especially with serious injuries, right? So they're not going to go to just the first website and then just hire an attorney. They're going to look at reviews. They're going to get reinforced with your brand. It's kind of a long-winded way of saying, you know, they come from everywhere. Yeah. I know that's not what someone wants to hear, but it's all about grabbing attention. That's why Gary Vee is all over social media and he's talking about traffic arbitrage. It's really like, where's the attention at? Where are my consumers congregating? That's where I need to be.
Great point. Pertaining to Google My Business, is there anything specific to Google My Business that, you know, you gotta do to rank on Google My Business other than reviews, since we've talked about reviews? Is there something like a hack or something you gotta do, or is it all just based on the domain authority, quote unquote, the authoritativeness of your website, the quality of the content, how Google is reading the quality of your content? Is there some other segment of your strategy that's like, this is just for Google My Business ranking?
Yeah, it's good. So it comes down to relevance, distance, and prominence. So relevance is using your keywords properly, having the correct categories. It's all about your content usage, even the words and phrases that your reviewers use, all comes down to relevance. That's one major impact, factor. The second is distance. So that deals with proximity. So imagine you go on vacation and you type best restaurants near me or best restaurants. You're not going to see Chicago restaurants when you're in St. Louis. You're going to see the businesses near you. So a firm, if you're wanting to rank in a market, you have to have an office there to rank in the map pack. So that's your proximity. And then the other factor is prominence. Reviews are a part of prominence, but prominence is also factored in by citations, the the number of times that your name, address, phone number is used on external sites, your external backlinks, just your external content that's pointing to your website, brand mentions, all these things. Prominence is being everywhere, right? That's what it is. So these firms that have been around for a long time, that have these natural mentions in the news, they've sponsored some high school, they've done these donor things, and they're not trying to do their SEO. They don't even know what SEO is, but they've done it naturally. They've developed this brand and this prominence. So they all kind of go hand in hand. I know you mentioned not reviews. I want to say one other thing about reviews, though, really quick. One of the best queries that an attorney can rank for are the superlative queries. Best, top, those types of searches. Best car accident lawyer, top car accident lawyer. If you are generating reviews and they are getting 1s and 2s and 3s and 4s, you will never rank for those queries. Imagine if you went on vacation and you type best restaurants, don't expect to see a firm or a restaurant with 1s and 3s in the map pack. You have to have 5s to rank for superlative queries. So it all ties into each other, right? You have to have a great reputation, treat your consumers with care in order to do well organically.
So this leads to another question, which I just made another video on, which I called Google My Business Spam, which is something that I was at the National Trial Lawyer Summit, and holy crap, I didn't realize how severe of a problem this was. I mean, people just like creating false locations and inserting wrongful death lawyer or inserting some specific keyword into the title of their GMB profile. So is there a balance between, doing that with opening locations, in not a shared office space, but maybe like getting a dry cleaner and then having an actual office in the back of the dry cleaner? You hear all these things about people paying SEO rent, right? Where they'll pay $1 amount to be listed in another location so they can have proximity in more areas. So what's your take on that?
So in order to abide by the Google terms of service, you have to have an employee staffed at the location. That's the quickest telltale. Full-time.
Wow.
Whatever your hours of operations is advertised as. So if you don't have someone staffed there, your competitor can record a video, submit it to Google, and your listing will be suspended. If you don't have permanent office space, let's say you're in a WeWork or a Regus and you're just renting conference rooms and maybe a mailbox, how you lift a suspension is by signage and proof of occupancy, whether it's a video at the location. Those situations generally take a few weeks to be resolved. However, I've seen them take months to be resolved. So those can be very costly situations for your firm. It's better. The other thing is specialists that talk about, multiple firms can rank in a shared office space. I, on the other hand, think there is some filtering, right? If y'all share the same address, you're in the same category, whether it's bankruptcy, criminal defense, one will win out and the other will lose. And the person that's been there longer and has more prominence will probably win. The other thing is with the keyword in the name that you mentioned, as it stands, if you have a legitimate name, it's, there's a DBA filing, a fictitious name, your LLC, and it incorporates a keyword. As of right now, it does provide a benefit. I wish Google, I'm talking to you, would de-emphasize this just like they did keywords in the domain. But as it stands right now, you do stand to benefit. I mean, look at Michigan. Who's dominating? Michigan auto law. It says Michigan, it says auto in you look at Los Angeles. I mean, Los Angeles is just flooded with keywords in the name. Philadelphia, just all these major markets. And it's because there is a benefit to having the keyword in the name because it impacts relevance. That impacts your search results. So it has to be, to do it properly, you got to do your legal filing, you got to do your DBA or fictitious and have that proof, because when you do get reported, you can give that to Google. But
good point.
As of right now, the reason people are doing it is because it works.
Yeah, it's fascinating that Google hasn't built a more efficient process to proactively reduce the occurrences of people creating spammy Google My Business profiles. I know quite a few people who just did it. Actually, in Philadelphia, someone who just started a law firm called us and told us about all, oh, I did this and I set up a thing here and I did that and showed them signage and then I just left and I'm never there again. And it worked. And it's a shame, but I always say, Google will figure out any black hat strategy. They've done a great job over time. It takes them a lot of time, but they've done a great job over time filtering out things that are trash for users. And they're still not all the way there. I have some questions on trends, but the one like very zoomed in thing I wanted to ask is, what keywords make money?
What keywords make money?
For PI, let's say.
All of them.
Is it the long tail? Is it like, is there something?
They all affect money. Top of the funnel generates backlinks, which helps your bottom of the funnel pages rank. Okay. Middle of the funnel gets your individual in the funnel, you show thought leadership, you get the hire later. So they all affect each other, but which has higher intent is the bottom of the funnel, your practice area pages. So even though those may have significantly less search volume, if a consumer types in those queries, which is typically your practice area plus lawyer or attorney, they have a substantially higher chance to convert right away. Now, top and middle affect the rankings of the bottom. They all kind of impact things, but if they're quality, but bottom of the funnel has the higher intent.
Man, that makes tremendous sense. And I love how, you have a way of, when I try and segment and say, what is the one thing here? It's always, well, there's 40 other tentacles, and that's just how it is. So let's talk trends. Where is Google going to be? Let's just say a crazy number, 2050.
2050. So
30 years.
The biggest thing that I'd say is there's going to be a lot more emphasis on voice, a lot more emphasis on AI. You're already starting to see it. I think that's the biggest is voice. 2050 is way out there for technology, so I'm not sure. Hopefully I still got a job, but.
What if we just say, let's say 5 years, 2025?
5 years, you're going to see substantially less low quality content ranking because they're going to improve their algorithm to filter those poor situations out. I hope that they don't introduce more ads, but they have the ability to. But overall, I think the quality of the content will be improved. I think your ability as a consumer to monetize your content will be less. Every year it's less. It's going to be less in the future. You're going to have to pay to play more. They're a business. Google's a business. They want to have the best experience, but they still need to make money. So I think less poor results are going to be filtered out by improvements in the algorithm. I also think that even in 5 years, there's going to be more AI and voice recognition based results or necessities. So with that, I want to say one more thing is with voice search, it demands prominence is so important, prominence and reputation, because when someone says, give me the best restaurant near me, they're not going to give you 4 restaurants. They're going to say Ruth Chris. They're going to say a name. It's going to be an entity instead of choice, unless maybe in the query that you ask, you say you want 3. But that's kind of my long-winded question. Improvements in the algorithm, more emphasis on voice.
I couldn't help myself. Last question. Do you think that local service ads will eventually have ranking factors that tie into SEO strategy?
Yeah, I think so. I think that they're going to be looking at metrics to evaluate the quality of a Google My Business listing. I think they're going to use similar evaluations that they look at for your website. So yeah, I absolutely do. The local service ads are going to be extremely important. I mean, it's all about occupying virtual real estate and your placement, and above the fold it's always been the best virtual real estate. The local maps is a way to occupy good placement.
Guys, there are no hacks. If there's one takeaway here, it's just hard work, helping people who are searching on Google. There is no secret. If you really go back through a lot of what Chris said, it's all of the hard stuff, right? there's not like, he didn't say, oh, there's this one little thing. If you click this button on WordPress and, and then you're going to rank, 40 times higher. It's just all the hard stuff, right? So, I call the biggest disease in both legal marketing and small business marketing, I call it agency jumping syndrome. And I believe that the infectious cause of this is miseducation, right? People go into new relationships with marketing agencies with the wrong expectations, and they just jump and jump and jump and jump. And the problem with that is when you consistently switch strategies, which I know is a funny dichotomy there, consistent with switching strategies, right? Your results are not going to reach their full potential. So thank you so much for your time, Chris. And thank you everyone for listening. Watch this 3 times slowly, and slow down, even just play it at half the speed and just watch Chris's lips move in slow motion to absorb his wisdom in one of the most competitive niches online, personal injury lawyers and legal services as a whole. And there is a tremendous amount of wisdom. So thank you so much, Chris, for your time.
Thank you, Bill. I appreciate you having me.
Definitely. And if you guys are interested in checking out Chris's company, just go to rankings.io.com. And again, he specializes in, I'm sorry, not .com.
Rankings.io, not .com.
That was a habit right there. Rankings.io, no .com. If you guys want to get updates when we release videos like this, please subscribe to our channel, like the video, comment below. If you want us to go deeper into anything else, maybe we could do another video on some topics that you want us to go deeper into. And also go to smbteam.com and put your email in, and you'll get a daily email drip every day with valuable legal marketing information that can help grow your business. So thank you so much for your time, energy, and attention. Stay great.